Alyssa, how are you doing? These last couple of days for Florida State fans have been pretty rough. But let me ask you this though: before the committee made the announcement Sunday morning, did you expect this? You had to at least hold out the idea that this could happen.
I think no, I didn't expect it. Yes, obviously it could have been a possibility, but I kept coming back to, would they really do that? And honestly, they did. And I can understand as a fan, as an alum, I got a lot of feelings, right? I also think too, the job that I have, I also understand that the SEC is as strong as it is. I just feel like you basically told that Florida State defense, who played lights out against Louisville, that they didn't matter, that the other 21 kids who play on that field don't matter, and it was all Jordan Travis. And this isn't the offense that they were. Yeah, you're right, it's not. But in a month, Tate Rodemaker will play, and in a month, you can figure out a scheme offensively that works because your defense is playing so well. I think that defense is better than Washington. That defense could beat Washington right now. That defense could definitely give Michigan a run for their money. And so I just felt like they weren't given a fair shot. And, everyone's like, well, prove the committee wrong. And they shouldn't have to prove the committee wrong. They showed up every single day and played and won, and that should matter. And for them not to have that opportunity to at least go out and see what they could have done, that everything that happened during the regular season mattered, is a problem for me. And I also feel like if you're going to sit here and say that Alabama is so much better than they were at the beginning of the year, which is true, and Florida and Texas got in because they beat Alabama in the beginning of the year, well, if that is also true, then wouldn't that Alabama win not mean as much? Because that's an Alabama team that you beat that also almost got beat on the road at USF. So I've got a lot of problems, and I'm probably going to get on my soapbox, but that's how I feel today.
It's a Jordan travesty. It is.
Did you just come up with this? You should have seen the look on Matt's face. The wheels were turning there, Alyssa. He didn't come up with that on Sunday. He didn't come up with that just because you're here. That just hit him in the head right there.
I love it, Matt. I love it.
I'm on your side, Alyssa.
Thank
you're
you.
on everybody's side.
I appreciate it. And, I totally understand the argument of the best teams, but I just don't feel like you shouldn't give Florida State an opportunity to prove that they are still one of the best teams in the country through the adversity that they're going through.
Look, it's not going to get any easier for them next year because there's two big leagues in this sport now, and I think that's become pretty obvious. 11 of the top 12 teams are Big Ten or SEC next year. Florida State's the outlier. They're the only one, at least for now, and I can't imagine that inside the the athletic administration offices and overall the school offices. I mean those who run the whole university. I bet you they are finding. They're going to find a way out of the ACC, and if they don't, they're going to have to find a way out. I think is the way they probably view it.
And I think that you look at what Notre Dame is right now. Notre Dame is an independent in football. The rest of their sports are in the ACC, and that obligation allowed Notre Dame to be in a conference. They have to play 6 ACC games a year, but the rest of their football schedule is fine. Their other sports are in the ACC. Soccer just won a national title yesterday, and so Florida State and the other sports are doing just fine. It's with football that I don't see how you just say, you know what, we're going to be an independent. And we're taking our football team independent, and we are going to schedule teams that we know will give us the best shot down the road. Because if they pull this strength of schedule, which quite frankly, Michigan didn't play anybody either except for Ohio State, that they will never have that excuse ever again to use. And that's what I think they do.
Well, let's focus in here on Arkansas, a team that didn't have to worry about that on Sunday morning. We do know there was no surprise that when Sam Pittman said he expected more changes on the coaching staff, that the offensive line was probably at least one of the position coaches that he was talking about. And what do we know about Eric Mateos, the new offensive line coach, comes from Baylor. You know, you look at their rankings this past year, not great, but they were better the year before. And you know, do we always just go by a coach's rankings on his at his position specifically? Can't always be like that.
No, I mean, you think about it, guys. They brought in Kendall Briles, who had come from Florida State when Sam Pittman got here, and Florida State's offense wasn't very good. They had Cam Akers in the backfield, and that was about it. And so I think, yeah, you have to look at, you know, some of those things that don't show up on stat sheets in terms of development. And, you know, you can only do so much sometimes with the people that you have on your roster at that moment in time. So what can he do when he can recruit at a higher level in the SEC, when he's got guys who are going to be more talented coming in? How does he develop them? And I think that's the biggest question. And the biggest issue with Cody Kennedy was the developmental side of these guys. And so, you know, Mateos it's ironic, you know, he came from Baylor, but he was also the interim offensive line coach for Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl after Sam left. So he's well aware of you know, what he can do in Arkansas and Sam Pittman working with him for a year here. So when he was here the first time. So, you know, I think Sam knew what he was doing when he went and got the next replacement for Cody Kennedy, and being at the second offensive line hire for him, knowing that, okay, maybe these are some things that I didn't think were necessarily important the first time around that I'm now going to overemphasize the second time around. And, you know, again, I just feel like you have to give someone the benefit of the doubt until they prove you wrong on the field, and not just jump all over a guy because of things that, you know, have happened at other teams with other circumstances that you just don't know all the details of.
Alyssa, I was looking around at the transfer portal with A.J. Green and Terrion Cardle and Carter and Manuel, which I wonder if they make lateral moves. You know, there is talent there. I wonder where they go, but everybody's kind of wondering about KJ with the new OC coming in. What are your thoughts? And I think there's been 75 quarterbacks already entered the portal. I don't know if there's a timing thing. I don't know if they work it out where they're going to go before they enter. But yeah, what do you think the market is for KJ?
I would love to see KJ back one more year in an Arkansas uniform. But I also do think that if you were to look at a bigger picture and everything that KJ has given to this university, if he decides to leave, and let's say he goes to Mississippi State, who, you know, Will Rogers is in the transfer portal, that's okay too. He gave 5 years to this university. There are people who don't even stay 5 years at their jobs. And so it's understanding if he says, you know, I think I've done everything I can here. I want to go home, play in my home state my final year, and see what happens. And I don't think that there's a bad or, you know, a positive or negative way that this could go, because I think if that's the case, then Arkansas can go find someone who maybe fits Bobby Petrino and what he wants to do. Not that KJ doesn't, but it's able to give an opportunity for Bobby Petrino to kind of pick exactly what quarterback he wants to work for. So, you know, regardless of what KJ does, I really think that you have to look at it both ways and say, if he comes back, what can Petrino do for him? But if he also leaves, like, that's not necessarily a bad thing for Arkansas either.
Well, then it's about who's next, you know, and instead of, well, one last hurrah, then it's about who's next.
And there's 70.
I think at that point, you're probably looking at somebody that you hope is playing a couple years for you at least, right?
Well, I was saying
right.
Go ahead, Alyssa.
Oh, no, I was just saying I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think you kind of look at, you know, what do you want to do? Or do you bring in a Felipe Franks who you know has just got one more year to see what happens?
Yeah, I was wondering if you've seen enough out of Criswell, but then there's 70 quarterbacks out there, and how much I want to see what Bobby Petrino, who he brings with them. If he brings any type of offensive lineman, does he still have the name where quarterbacks are like, hey man, I want to go play for this guy because he is such an established play caller.
Yeah, and I would be really interested to see who he brings in, which is why, and this is not personal, but getting a new quarterback on campus isn't a bad thing. And with all of the options that are out there right now, you know, Oklahoma or Oregon State's quarterback, DJ Ugu. I cannot say it, so I'm not even going to try. But, he was at Clemson last year and or 2 years ago, then transferred to Oregon State. Now he's back in the transfer portal again. Will Rogers is out there as well. You've got a whole bunch of guys that you could go and see could they fit in a Petrino system, and bringing them to Arkansas and see what happens. And I think that's okay.
But I also want to see competition in spring ball, competition in preseason camp. I don't think there was any of that sort of competition at running back, certainly not at quarterback. They'll say, well, he's going to earn being the number one. You knew who the number one quarterback was. You knew who the number one running back was going to be. I think you had some competition at wide receiver. But competition's a good thing. And bringing somebody in here that just expects to start, well, that can actually lead to some complacency in some cases. I think you have to bring somebody in with the idea, sure, we'd love to play you. Go win the job. We got a couple of guys here that we recruited here out of high school. They're going to get the same chance. You got to welcome a moment like that. Like Spencer Sanders going out of Oklahoma State. You can point at him and say, hey, he didn't really play much this year, but the guy took a chance. He didn't get on the field very much, but that might be one reason why Jackson Dart has been so good this year. He legitimately won a job against a guy that was a starting QB for 3 years.
Yep. And when was the last time we had a quarterback battle truly after Austin Allen left, right? And that was a mess. And then obviously KJ won that job when he got here. But it's been a while. Again, KJ has been here for so long that competition in that room isn't a bad thing to do and to have. And to your point, true iron sharpens iron. I mean, they said that all off season, but really, who was pushing who in the running back room? Who was pushing who in the quarterback room? Let's actually see what happens.